Hello and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. My name is Aaron, and with me as always is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Good. It's been a couple of weeks since we last recorded, but
It's true. It's been the summertime.
Yeah.
We gotta get out and cherish the summer.
I was out of town like a week ago or so we couldn't record, but we're back. There is a good amount of stuff to talk about. Also, I was going to ask you, as sort of a conversation starter, what's a game that you never finished that you like has kind of always stayed with you and you wanted to maybe go back to one day?
I have to say, and we're going to talk a little bit about this later on, but a thing that is still in the back of my head that is recent that I need to jump back on, that I'm probably 75% of the way done with, is Cyberpunk. I played it one time and then I dropped it for like a year, and then I got really into it again and did like every side quest. And now I think I only have main missions to do, but I think I still have a little bit of. I just did the parade mission, and I haven't played it since then.
It's a really cool sequence, yeah.
It is a great sequence, and I'm maxed out. I'm like level 20 intelligence, so I just like walk around and people just die around me. But that is one that it will eventually get back on, especially probably in anticipation of something we're going to talk about later on. What about you?
Well, the thing you just described of like starting it and then falling off of it and then returning to it like a year later and basically like powering through until you finish it is kind of my experience with Star Renegades. We talked about that earlier this year, but the game that I never finished that always stayed with me, like that I kind of had in mind when I like asked this question, was Persona 5, but I'll get a chance to revisit that later this year. And then, well, I guess a game I did finish that has stayed with me almost even more so than even like Ghost of Tsushima or Final Fantasy VII Remake, which were the other two like big games that year, was Yakuza Like a Dragon. And I was thinking about it like a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I should replay that, or maybe I should just like download one of the other Yakuza games because they're on like Game Pass. And lo and behold, I was listening to the MinMax show later that week, and they were like also having the exact same experience. And I was like, are our brains like programmed now to like think about this game like simultaneously like a year later or whatever?
They released a trailer for the sequel.
Oh, did they? Oh man.
Yeah, he has a new haircut.
Oh man. Are you sure? Man, I need to see that.
I don't remember what the subtitle is, but yeah, it's another, what was his name? Ichiban?
Ichiban Kasuga?
Yeah, there's a new Ichiban story in the works.
Man,
he doesn't have his signature hair now. I think he got a haircut.
Well, he had a like short hair at the beginning of Like a Dragon, and then like after certain time into the game, he has like the wild hair.
You know, if you're looking to revisit it, but you don't have a lot of time, there was also a Like a Dragon speedrun at SGDQ this year.
Oh,
and
really?
I watched like the first like hour and a half of it, and it was very interesting to watch because it's crazy how much they've optimized a game that takes so long to beat.
Yeah, it is a long game. I do remember like I was sort of going back and forth between that and Cyberpunk, trying to finish both of them. And I eventually got to a point where I was like, I'm going to focus on Like a Dragon until I finish that, because one, I had gotten really into it, but also it's just like there's so much, like it's so long. And also like you get to a point where you kind of, because it's also like a JRPG, so you kind of have to do some grinding. But
it's also crazy in the speedrun for SGDQ. It's crazy how fast it goes when you skip all of the cutscenes, especially in the beginning. Like the beginning, I feel like there's 25 minutes of cutscenes.
Yeah.
And they're running around way faster than I was, or I remember being.
Yeah, I remember that opening taking like a long time and being like, there's not a lot of gameplay to the first like 2 hours of this game.
All set up.
But yeah, so I did download Yakuza 0 through Game Pass on PC, nice. But I have not started it yet. So I might try to get back into that franchise in that way. But No, it's a very good game, Like a Dragon. I highly
Have you
recommend.
ever, speaking of like being like a dragon and games we have put down, have you ever beaten Skyrim?
Yeah, I've beaten it probably a couple of times, but I have it for pretty much every platform available. What about
I
you?
have I've played it a long time. There's I've played it twice, almost all the way through, doing like all of the side quests, but I have never progressed the main story pretty much. I've only
Really?
ever gone around and done random things.
I don't think I've played the DLCs. Like I will play through it and like go through like the main quest line and like the Civil
Hmm.
War quest line and like all the different like guild quest lines, but
Thieves Guild and Mages
yeah,
Guild.
but I don't think I've ever actually done the DLC stuff, which is
I don't know if
crazy.
I have either, actually. Yeah, I think I own the Ultimate Edition now, but I've never played any of that Dawn Guard stuff or like
Yeah, because
there's like a homestead one or where you have a house, I think.
yeah, and like I forget which one it is. It might be the Dawn Guard one where it's like involves vampires and
Yes.
vampirism. Like I've not gone through
Yeah.
that quest line.
I think you get like a new cool companion who's a vampire. But
Which at this point, like when I am in the mood to revisit like Elder Scrolls, I just go back to ESO because there's like new
yeah.
stuff for me to play that I have not played before. Well, I guess I could try to actually get to the DLC of Skyrim finally,
Can
but
you go to Skyrim in ESO?
yeah, they've got expansions that take place in the realm of Skyrim.
Is it a very similar map?
I don't know. I actually haven't played them yet. So that's one thing I could do if I want to go back to Elder Scrolls. Which, as we get closer to Elder Scrolls 6, that might be a thing I do. Like, I put out a video a couple of years ago
In
now
2027.
where, like, they had done a teaser for Elder Scrolls 6. And so I did a video being like, should you jump into Elder Scrolls Online to, like, sort
I
of
remember that.
tide you over until the next like mainline game comes out? And the answer is yes. I returned to ESO earlier this year with the latest expansion, and I really liked it. I like actually completed the main story of it, and it made me want to like, I don't know, try to. I haven't progressed characters super far in that game, but I like returning to it
Yeah.
every once in a while.
What's your prediction? Throw out a prediction right now for when Elder Scrolls 6 will come out.
Oh gosh. So I mean if you look at how long it took them to go from Fallout 4 to I guess maybe that's not the right game to compare it to because I was going to say Fallout 4 to Starfield, but I guess um 76 came out in between those two. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
and they were
count.
supporting 76 for a long time.
Yeah, I think they still are actually. There was like I feel like there was a DLC that came out this year, even maybe. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I know they've still been adding to it and still been updating it. And I actually have kind of wanted to jump back in and see what all is different because
What's going on?
I know they've got NPCs in there now, and there's like all these quest lines you can do and everything, and like you can have companions and stuff like that. So it seems like however many years after release, it finally is looking and feeling more like an actual Fallout game than
I
when
feel
it
like that's what
first
happened with
launched.
ESO as well, right? Wasn't it like they
Yeah,
put it out and it wasn't what people wanted, and they slowly made it more like a regular Elder Scrolls game?
yeah. I think at launch people were really disappointed with it, and but some people like kind of like Destiny, they just stuck with it and
Mm,
just kept building it up and adding on to the experience. And now like
mm.
ESO is like pretty highly regarded for MMOs. So yeah, they do a better job than some developers of sticking with the game once they've released it. So that's good.
Well, should we dive into the news?
Sure. I this is maybe a couple of weeks old now, but Bloomberg reported that Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic, the remake by Aspire Media, is now delayed indefinitely.
Mm.
Apparently, they're trying to figure out what to do next after like the game's art director and design director were abruptly fired. And I don't know if they said in the story, but I'm not sure exactly why that was.
Mysterious circumstances.
Yeah. But yeah, in the meantime, they're apparently like the studio is going to try to look for like contract work and other development opportunities. So it's kind of a bad situation, it seems like. So I don't know if that game will ever get released. I don't know like if it was like a disastrous undertaking like we've seen with other games. But
with other Star Wars games, remember there was that really high profile, what was it, like Star Wars 1313 or whatever?
Yeah.
Parallels to that.
Yeah, something about working in Star Wars. Well, I guess unless you're the one that made Jedi Fallen Order, unless you're that studio.
That's getting a sequel that we saw a trailer for pretty recently.
Yeah, so I mean there are other Star Wars games coming out, but I think people were pretty hyped to revisit Knights of the Old Republic, and now it may never happen. Who's to say?
What are people not hyped for?
Lord of the Rings Gollum, it turns out, is also being delayed by a few months after criticism of the recent gameplay trailer. Yeah, I don't think it's just the gameplay trailer that people are criticizing, but it did look pretty bad. And
I don't know how this happened. We talked about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago, but it boggles my mind that someone thought this was a good idea. It got developed. Like, what are they thinking?
Who greenlit this? I mean,
everything about it seems bad.
Yeah, just from like a timing note, like I feel like the time to release this game has like long come and gone. Like maybe 20 years ago was the time to release this game. And it looks like a game that like the trailer that they got criticism about looks like maybe a game that would have come out 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It just did not look good. And I know there's like a Lord of the Rings show coming to Amazon that maybe they're like, ooh, if we like time this just right, we can release around when that comes out. And though like Lord of the Rings will be like in the zeitgeist again. But
yeah.
Yeah. Well, wrong character to make a Lord of the Rings game about anyway. But I don't know. I don't know who's hyped for this game. So the fact that it's been delayed. After looking not good to begin with, I feel like this is going to be a major flop for whoever's making this, but
100%. We also got some news from Nintendo.
Yeah.
Somebody high up, I forget who it was, but they were asking, I don't know if it was during an earnings call, but basically someone said Nintendo isn't going to be unveiling any new hardware this fiscal year. So still we're not getting that Switch 2 or Switch HD Pro
Switch
or whatever.
Pro, yeah.
Switch Pro.
So yeah,
even though everyone always talks about it, it's not happening anytime soon.
The Super Nintendo Switch, yeah, people are still like rumoring that this is definitely happening. Like we're definitely going to get
one.
What
is a fiscal year? Like when does a fiscal year end as opposed to a regular year? Is it like does it end in like March or something?
Yeah, that's what. So I don't remember who tweeted that. They said that the fiscal year ends in March 2023. So certainly not until at least after that.
I don't know, man. I feel like it could still launch alongside Breath of the Wild too.
That's true. If it ends in March, it could be like late March or April that they're like, here's Breath of the Wild 2 launching alongside Switch Pro.
Would be pretty cool.
That would be cool. That kind of goes along with another story about how the Switch has like surpassed 111 million units sold, but sales are down. So maybe I
think they're reaching market saturation at this point.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, these Nintendo consoles, it was the same with like the 3DS, where like everybody was like, okay, everybody and their grandma has like 5 of these already because they just keep selling. I think the Switch is getting to a similar situation where everybody and even the people in the family that don't normally play games owns at least one of these consoles at this point.
Yeah.
So I guess not surprising maybe, but also like we're in a situation where there's like, it's hard to get hardware out there. And Nintendo
Yeah.
has maybe been less impacted by that than Sony and Microsoft, but maybe this is a sign that either they're reaching market saturation or the hardware situation is finally catching up with them. But
I was at Target yesterday picking up some stuff,
yeah.
and I was checking out in the self checkout, and there were two employees just like hanging out, just like watching if people needed help at the self checkout.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy walked up to them and he was like, "Hey, man, do you have PS5s? Can you buy PS5s here?" And the Target employee was like, "No, no, you have to do that online. We don't have them in the store." And the guy was like, "Oh, really? I heard you could get them here." And the employee was like, "No, no."
Can I interest
no.
you in a Xbox Series S?
That they do always have
We
stock.
have plenty of those back there. It's like in Jingle All the Way, where they're looking for a Turbo Man, but they're like, "Nope, we got Booster though."
Still, the only one I've ever seen in person was like behind glass in a display at Best Buy, and that could have even just been a model. I don't even know.
Yeah, it could have just been a box for advertising purposes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still rough trying to get a hold of them. I think I did see, like, I see articles every once in a while where it's like, hey, the Series X is actually pretty easy to get these days on like Microsoft's website, or even like, I don't know, it might be like Target or someplace. But again, I think you have to get them online. So
yeah.
Speaking of shortages at Target, this is not gaming related, but I really like my SodaStream. And you cannot go replace those like CO2 cartridges anymore because they're basically having a shortage of those, I guess, everywhere. Really? Like I went to Target. Normally you can just take one in and go to the customer service counter and be like, "Hey, can I get a replacement here?" And you get them for like half the price because you're trading in an old one.
Right.
They don't have them anymore. Which is weird because you just walk like back to where they are and like, "Hey, here's several of them. Can I just like take this up to the customer service area and exchange it and do the half off thing?" And they're like, "Oh no, those are, they have to be sold at full price back there." And it's just like, why? Like, I know this is like a dumb corporate decision, but also like, well, I won't tell anyone. Let's just make the exchange happen. Because also you're going to recycle these, aren't you? You're going to like refill them and resell them. So, yeah. I mean, let me help you. Help me help you. Help me.
Help the world.
Yes. But I guess they're not into that, so.
Peanut butter also they haven't had a lot of lately.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is with that. There was like a recall at one point, and
I guess, yeah.
Now they just like, peanut butter is like super hard to get for some reason.
It's very weird. I've been having to use like weird off-brand peanut butter whenever I use peanut butter.
I think, well, actually, conveniently, the only kind of peanut butter I get is that I think it's Smucker's makes a peanut butter that's like only has peanuts and salt in the ingredient list, which is like how I go for peanut butter because I like all that like palm oil and all those weird oils,
the good stuff
that are in there that make it so that you don't have to stir it is actually like really
those delicious oils.
Those delicious oils are actually pretty bad for you. And if you're like trying to do a keto diet, which I am, you like don't want all of that like added sugar and the different oils in it. So you have to, if you like peanut butter like I do, you have to get the kind that only has like peanuts and salt listed in the ingredients list. And conveniently, that brand of peanut butter continues to be fairly readily available because like nobody buys it but me apparently. So
yeah,
so it works out for me, but not so much for everybody else.
Supply chain, man, it's all about that supply chain.
It is all about the supply chain, and we're still not quite recovered yet. But speaking of recovered. From your cyberpunk addiction, tell me about this cyberpunk anime.
Well, so this is getting me hyped to dive back in. I don't know how many more hours I have left, but Cyberpunk Edge Runners is coming to Netflix pretty soon, I think. And the anime studio that's making it is Studio Trigger. They made Kill la Kill back in the day, which is a very good anime. Their style is just so cool, and they made that Pro Mare movie. They make great stuff. They did a couple spots in that Star Wars Visions thing that was on Disney Plus, where they got a bunch of different animators to make little Star Wars vignettes. But I love Studio Trigger, and Edge Runners looks really good. Actually, it looks like it's going to be very cool, very stylish. The music looks really good. Everything about it actually looks great for it being like based on a video game. Like, I think they're really going to nail the world of Cyberpunk, and it's just going to be super good. So look out for that. They released a new trailer, which I put in the show notes.
Yeah,
I think it's being released.
I hadn't seen this yet, so I'm watching it now. It does look really good.
It looks great. I only trying to find it's sometime in August. I believe it's coming out.
I wonder, I don't know what their plans are going forward for like DLC, or like if they're ever going to get that multiplayer like online mode that they talked about. But it would be like a touch of brilliance to have this come out like to coincide with the launch of like some sort of DLC or online mode. Because it would get you back into it for sure. But if
it looks great, I can't find
September 2022.
September. Okay.
They didn't give an actual date. They just said September, so not too long to wait.
I'm very excited for this, and I think it will get me to maybe complete my run, my first run of Cyberpunk, because I loved that game. I know that it's very controversial, or at least it was when it came out, but I think they did enough that it's actually like a super good game now, and I'm excited to dive back in. I mean, and maybe even do New Game Plus. I don't know. Yeah,
even when it was like still kind of rough around the edges, I was playing through it, and I was like I do have to, overlook some things because it's just not running as well as I would like it to. But like the underlying game there, and like the story and everything else about it, I was still really enjoying. So I just powered through. And I still I think I went back because we talked earlier about how I was thinking about Like a Dragon. And it was the same year that Cyberpunk came out. And so I was trying to refresh my memory on how I felt about some of those top games from that year. And I was like, did I underrate Like a Dragon? Because it's the one that I still think about maybe more than some of the other games. And so I went back to listen to our top 10 episode from that year, just to refresh my memory on some of those games. And I do still think my list from that year holds up. And it was the same situation with Cyberpunk, where I hadn't finished it by the time we recorded that episode. But I don't know. I liked both of those games quite a bit, but I do think my ranking of Ghost of Tsushima 1, Final Fantasy 7 Remake 2, Like a Dragon 3, and then Cyberpunk 4, I think that holds up. But man,
I think that's sound. Yeah,
going back and thinking about it, those were 4 great games to have on a top 5. Was that a better year for gaming than I thought it was at the time?
Quite possibly. I mean, Final Fantasy 7 Remake was so good, and why was I thinking about it recently? I was watching something Final Fantasy 7 related, and I was like, man, the music in this is just so good.
Oh yeah, I think maybe that was another thing that I thought about that made me want to go back and re-listen to that episode we did, because I was listening to the soundtrack while I was working, and I was like, man, this is so good.
Let's talk briefly about Pokemon. They had a presentation, a live stream this week. They unveiled a number of things we probably don't need to talk about, including updates to that Pokemon Cafe game, which I'm not even sure how you play.
Is that a mobile one?
Yeah, it's like a mobile. I don't even know how you play it, really. I think you just I really don't know. They've shown gameplay of it, and I can't understand how it works. But Mewtwo's coming to the cafe, so get ready for that. They talked about Pokemon Go. I think there's like raids.
Oh
maybe
yeah,
coming back
I did
or
see
something.
they were gonna add like some other like alternate form that they do where it's like Mega Evolution or something like that. I don't know which one they already have, but they're gonna add another one. At this point,
And then
I don't know. I haven't played Pokemon Go in so long, but
they talked about some news for their MOBA, which I forget the name of.
yeah, what is that called?
I don't know. We don't need to. It's fine. And then there's also, I think, a game where you collect NPCs from the Pokemon universe and just like hang out with them. Pokemon Masters or something like that.
Oh yeah, I remember that game.
Anyway, let's talk about what everyone wants to talk about. The new ones, which I do know the names of, and I'm not
Scarlet
looking
and
up right.
Violet.
Scarlet and Violet. That's right. I was about to say that. They talked a lot about that. It is all about motorcycles. It seems like you immediately get a legendary Pokemon, and it's either a motorcycle or a motorcycle that also runs.
Yeah, it was weird.
Depending on if you're in
We were
the future or
talking
the
about this
past.
a little bit before we started recording, but like depending on which version you get, whether it's Scarlet or Violet, obviously the legendary is going to be different. But like the prehistoric one, which I think is Scarlet, it's like a creature that has what looks like wheels, but they're not actually because the character just runs.
Well, no, they are wheels. It's like when a guy on a motorcycle is at a red light and is just kind of like slowly tipping forward.
Oh,
Like the
Flintstone
wheels
style.
are running. Yeah, it's like a Flintstones. It's very similar to Flintstones, and which makes sense because it's from the past.
I guess that's true. I didn't think about it that way, but this legendary is the Flintstones car.
So that's cool. It's an open world RPG this time around.
Yeah.
There's 3 different storylines, they said. There's the regular one where you're going to different gyms and collecting badges. And then there's 2 other ones that they didn't really go into. But you can tackle the gyms and other storylines in any way you want because it is fully open world. It's not
Yeah.
like going from route to route anymore, which is cool.
Yeah, it's not linear.
Also, Pokemon can turn crystallized. That's like the Dynamax thing in this one, I guess, is Pokemon can go crystallized or terrorized or whatever.
Yeah, terrestrializing, whatever that means.
So that's another thing. What's your hype level on this? Are you going to pick this up?
My relationship to Pokemon is weird now. Where like if they do a trailer for like a new game, I'll get weirdly nostalgic about it and be like, oh, maybe I should pick this up because it has given me like those nostalgia vibes and making me kind of want to jump back into it. But when I pick up a game, the same thing happened with Sword and Shield and Legends Arceus or Arceus or however you say that. And I played it for like maybe 10, 15 hours, and then I just like fell off of it. I was like, I get this. I don't need more of this. So my gut tells me I should not bother picking this up, but like the nostalgia in me is like, no, you're going to like this one. You're going to play this
At
all
least
the way
for like
through.
10 hours.
Yeah. For like 10 to 20 hours, you're probably going to like this, but you're definitely not going to finish it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And they did say, I forget where I saw this, but the classic, I guess, quest line of going around and defeating all the gyms is like a small percentage, like a relatively small percentage of the game. And then there's just like a ton
It's like
of
the
other
2
things.
other storylines are the main deal.
Yeah. And I mean, it is the first one that's like a fully open world, which is what everybody has wanted Pokemon to do since Breath of the Wild came out. But
True.
I don't know. I liked what I saw of this, and it did make me nostalgic for the series, but realistically, will I like play this through to completion? Probably not. So also it depends on what else is out at the time, because this does come out in November, and I think there's going to be like God of
Gonna be a
War
lot going
comes
on.
out in November, I think. Plus there's other stuff, so hard to say.
Zach, let's talk about Dr. Disrespect.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on that guy?
I have avoided all things to do with Dr. Disrespect for basically my entire life. So I have very little thoughts on the man.
a weird guy, for sure. He is making a game. He has a lot of money because he is a Twitch streamer who is very popular among the youth.
He's one of the
And he is
richest
funneling-
Twitch streamers out there, that's for sure.
He's channeling that money into a game studio, and he is making a game called Dead Drop with only one D in the middle. DEDROP.
DEAD?
Oh yeah, DEAD. And they released some information about it. It's still in the early stages, but it's a Tarkov-like. Have you ever dipped your toes into Escape from Tarkov?
I have not.
It's an interesting style of game that I have been actually thinking about getting into. There's a new one called The Cycle Frontier that looks pretty fun and is
I've played
supposedly
that.
a more casual. Yeah, how is that? Is it good?
I mean, I played it a couple of years ago. I actually think I put a video up on our YouTube channel of that.
Oh, really? It's
yeah.
been having a resurgence recently, I think. I've been getting a lot of recommendations about people who are diving back in. I think they maybe had like a 1.0 launch or like more content added to it.
Because I think at the time it was still in like early access or beta or whatever, but it was like it's free to play, or at least it was, and it was like one of those like PvPvE games where
It's an item economy game.
Yeah, and so you're like going around and taking out like different creatures in the world and like collecting items and stuff like that, but you have like a loadout that you start with, and you can kind of customize that and build it up as you go, and you can also get drops in the world as well.
Tarkov and things like it, I believe, are inspired by possibly, I actually don't know the timeline, but the first instance I heard of something similar to this was the Dark Zones in, what was that game we played together where you were in New York City and it was COVID was happening?
Oh, yeah. The something. Tom Clancy's The Division.
The Division, yes. Similar to the Dark Zones, Tarkov is a game where you have an inventory outside of Tarkov, and you can pull from that, and then you go into Tarkov and you're looting and hunting other players and trying to get like caches, and then you try to escape Tarkov. Similar, the cycle is outside of the world you go to. You have like an item locker, and then you go into whatever the world is. You collect as much as you can, and then you try to bring it back. You have to go to an extraction site, get out, and then if you can get out and other players don't try to steal your stuff, then you can use that stuff the next time you go in, and you have like safe pockets where you can put stuff or like put insurance on things. But it's an interesting style of game, and I guess that this Dead Drop is going to be similar to that, but the premise is that it's much more vertical. It's like I think it takes place in like a bunch of buildings that are like skyscrapers that are very close to each other, or at least that's one of the maps. And so this is a Tarkov-like where it's like an item economy game, but the premise is that you're like, it's very, very vertical.
Interesting.
And they released some gameplay of it right now, just like super early stuff of like a shooting range and like some of the like world. But I don't know. This is like, I don't think that it's a super good idea for streamers and people who like make YouTube videos to get into the games industry and try to like make their own games. I feel like that's been a bad thing in the past. Famously, like the Yogscast tried to make a game and it did not go well. But I don't know. This actually looks kind of interesting to me. What do you think about this?
I mean, I did like what I played of The Cycle. I thought that it was sort of an interesting twist on the Battle Royale. To have like that PvPvE thing going on, and also just like the fact that you basically were collecting items to sort of build up your loadout that you would set in between matches. And then like once you actually entered the world, like the loadout was basically your drops that you could get. So it's an interesting like twist on the Battle Royale, but I don't know that I want to play a specific streamer's iteration of that concept, especially when like The Cycle and Tarkov like exists outside of it, you know? But like we've talked about previously on the podcast that I'm not a huge like battle royale guy to begin with, but I don't know. I think it is an interesting twist on that type of a game, but
I do think it's a good evolution from battle royale, like having the item economy and having a way to, because in a battle royale you're never really progressing your character.
right.
Everyone sort of starts out at zero, but with this, you can sort of progress your character. Like the more times you go into the world, you're
true.
like collecting stuff.
Yeah, I do like a good like progression system, and like one of the reasons I can't get too invested into battle royales is that it's like a roguelike where you may be building up your character, but once you die, like you start from zero again.
That's the end of the run.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that's why I haven't been able to get into them in the past. But if they like have a more compelling like progression system outside of just like what skins can I unlock, you know, then maybe it'll make me want to play more of it. But
it's interesting. Maybe we should play some Cycle together. I hear it's really good now.
it has been a long time since I played that game. But yeah, I would check it out again since it's like free to play. And
I have my new PC and I have not utilized it at all. I've pretty much just been using it for looking at the internet and playing Into the Breach. But I'm looking for a game to like test the limits of it, and I don't think this is like super graphically.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think that would do it, but it would be interesting to play. Like it would be interesting to revisit it after all this time and see how it's changed and been updated. But speaking of things that we might play or have played, let's talk about Stray, since that has been out for a little while now, and you have finished it. I have played some of it, but I have not finished it yet.
Where are you at in the story? I only want to talk about the ending, so I guess we can't do that today, but maybe we can do that next week.
I mean, I'm okay if you want to spoil it for me. I'm not like super sensitive to spoilers, and like with this game, it's relatively short, so you can feel free to talk about it as much as you want.
Where are you at in the story?
So I just finished the part where you go collect the journals and take them to that Momo guy or whatever, and he's like, try to get out of here now.
So you're probably about halfway through. I think I am going to wait to talk about the story because I want you to finish it and then we should talk about it. But I have to say, I was into it. I liked it. I liked it a good amount. It's cool to be a cat and run around and do stuff.
I was going to say, it's a game designed for cat lovers, and you famously do have a cat that you love.
A robot. Like, I like robots are cool. All the robot designs were very cool. I was on board, I think, until maybe, like, the last, 15 minutes.
Oh, really?
But maybe we'll talk about that when you complete it.
Okay.
But, yeah, I liked it. I wish it was longer, for sure. And I wish it was, slightly more... I mean, I like everything to have progression. I would be cool if you could upgrade things in this. But obviously, it doesn't make a ton of sense. As just like a small linear story, I would say my overall review of it, if I was to give a review of from 1 to 10, it would be at maybe a 6 or a 7.
Yeah, that was my general thoughts on it as well. Just having played only halfway through it so far, was that I think they did a great job of just animating the cat and how it moves and everything.
The robots too, also.
Yeah, and the robots. And I think they do have an interesting world that you're going through. And it's sort of post-apocalyptic and all the humans are gone. But yeah, I don't know. I wish there was a little bit more to it, but maybe there will be more as I go.
There's a little more.
Mechanically speaking.
The story falls flat, I feel, at the end. And... I wanted it to be longer. I wanted there to be more of a payoff for things at the end, but there wasn't. I don't know. We can talk about it when you beat it, but I have a way that I think it should have gone that we can discuss.
We'll do a how it should have ended later.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I have to say it does play well on the Steam Deck. It was not...
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it was, certified, when I looked at it on there, but I did want to, try it just to see, because I started it on PC. And then I went over to try it on Steam Deck, and it runs just fine. It has like the normal controller layout and everything, so it might as well be certified for Steam Deck if it's not already. But yeah, it was playing great. So if you have a Steam Deck and you've not played Stray yet, even if it doesn't have the little icon that's like, oh, this is approved or whatever, go ahead and play it on Steam Deck. And
Do you think there was
I've
ever?
heard that on PS5 it does take advantage of the DualSense stuff,
Oh, really?
which I haven't tested myself because I only have it on Steam, but that's definitely a thing. So
I could see that. I played it on PS4. Do you think there was ever an iteration of this game where you could jump freely as opposed to
like
just like
only
following?
at approved points.
Yeah, I think it would definitely made it harder and less fun because I could see it getting really frustrating if you had to like make very specific jumps, especially when those little things are following you.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I don't know if I like always having like my jumps locked in, like Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because I feel like you would almost have these like funny memes of like the cat not knowing exactly how high to jump and just like I don't know, you mashing the button to jump and him just like doing these weird cat bob jumps instead of like going to a specific spot, and as cats do, they look up at where they want to go and then they jump exactly the right height because they can
That's
somehow
true.
calculate that in their head.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe from just a visual standpoint, it makes sense to do it that way. But I think I also wanted to be able to more freely move around. But
It's such an interesting world, and they've done such a good job of filling it with just like junk and random stuff around. Like it feels like a lived-in world. They did such a good job designing the environments. I just want more ability to like a better way to. I wish I could glide in the game almost. I don't know that doesn't make any sense for why a cat would be able to do that, but I don't know.
give them a wingsuit where they can
That would be great.
climb to a high point and then like glide down. Basically, make it more Breath of the Wild like.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
use the cat's claws to be able to climb up any surface. Yeah. Maybe Stray 2 will have that.
I hope they do make a Stray 2 because I think the story definitely needs to progress. Is my main issue with the game. I think I played it in I think 3 or 4 sittings. It was a very quick game.
Yeah, I hear it's about 5 hours,
Yeah.
so you can get through it in a couple of sittings.
Should we discuss what we've been watching / playing?
We
/ watching?
should. The only thing I've really been watching lately that I could think of over the last couple of weeks is What We Do in the Shadows, because that's back.
I have as
And
well.
I've been enjoying the new season. I like the show. I've liked the show in the past, but yeah, it's a fun show. I enjoy it.
I also been liking it a lot, and I've been catching up on that Wellington Paranormal as well on HBO because they
Yeah.
released season 4.
I keep meaning to go watch that as well, but I haven't started the latest season. It feels like maybe they should time it better so that Wellington Paranormal and What We Do in the Shadows just like comes out in October.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I enjoy those shows as well. They're obviously spinoffs from Taika Waititi's What We Do in the Shadows movie. But they're really entertaining shows, and I think they're getting better as they go.
I agree with that, actually. Yeah.
In
I think
both
every season
cases.
has been better than the last.
Yeah. Because maybe, I don't know, maybe they're just like getting a better sense for the characters as they go, which is, I guess, fairly common. But I also am a big fan of Matt Berry, so pretty much anything that he's in, I'm going to try to watch. I don't really have anything interesting or insightful to say about the shows. I just like them and want to watch them. So
I talked about it a little earlier, but I've been diving back into the Breach because they got a big DLC because I guess like Netflix bought them somehow and you can play it on your phone via Netflix now.
Oh, really?
But every version of the game got all of the extra content. They added, I forget how many, they've added a lot. So there's new kinds of missions, new enemies, new mech weapons, new mech teams. There's totally new mech teams. There's new pilots. It's like a very large update, and I've really been enjoying it. And I also bought it on Switch, and so I've been playing it on my TV with a controller, and it plays. Well, the first time I played through this and I unlocked everything except for like the super secret team or whatever, I played it with mouse and keyboard, which was great and I loved. But it also plays great on controller. I have to say, they did a great job with controller support, and it's a great game. It's I never really got into FTL. Everyone says it's a better game than Into the Breach, but I'm loving it. I have to say, anyone who hasn't played Into the Breach, I guess if you have Netflix, you can just play it on your phone. I don't know if I would recommend that, but you can do it. I got it. I think it plays great on controller or mouse and keyboard. So pick it up wherever.
So does the Switch version have like touch screen support?
That's a good question. I haven't tried. It might actually. I've only ever played it docked.
Yeah, I imagine if you can play it on a phone, I don't know why you wouldn't be able to do the same on the Switch.
I might actually try that. I'd be interested to see. You? How into the Breach did you get?
I got relatively into it, not as into it as you got into the Breach, but I liked it. I just that kind of game where it's sort of roguelite. I tend to like get into for maybe like 10, 15 hours and then just fall off because I realize I'm not going to get to the end of it. But I think it's a cool style of game. I don't know. I've played a good amount of these style of games, like not in particular like Into the Breach, but like the sort of roguelite type of thing lately, with like Star Renegades and what was that other game that had like Dracula in it that we did a video on?
Oh yeah.
Rogue Lords, yeah. So I feel like I've played quite a few of those lately, and I don't know. I haven't been called back into the Breach yet, but maybe one day.
It's great stuff. I don't know if it's ever going to get any more content, but
maybe they'll do Into the Breach 2.
That would be great. This is almost a 2.0 with how much content they added, but I can't recommend it enough.
Well, speaking of games that has gotten a lot of updates, I have returned to No Man's Sky.
Whoa.
And I initially played it on PS4 at launch. That was the last time I've played it. And I put like maybe like 15 hours or so into it. And I was like, this is like a good concept, but they've not done enough with it. And of course, at the time, everybody was so disappointed with it that it was like, a meme basically. And that was the last I had experienced it. But like you see all these updates like every year, they're like, oh, there's this new thing. It's like basically a completely different game now. And so I've been kind of like you with Genshin Impact. I've been kind of watching it from afar thinking, ooh, I should jump into that. And I finally bit the bullet and did it. But I picked it up on PC so I could play it on Steam. And I've really been liking it. They have like, quests now that you can do. Like they've done a much better job of like giving you a sense of purpose in the game, I think, which was maybe lacking at the start.
Are you still trying to get to the center of the universe?
Like that's still an element to it, but there's still so much other things you can be doing in the game. And like you start off and it's got kind of like a let's start building like an outpost or a base or whatever. And as you do that, you can like unlock more things that you can build, and you can like hire NPCs to come work at your base. And there's like one of the more recent updates. I don't know if it's the most recent or if it's been out for a little while, but you can go find freighters and you can like basically claim a freighter or buy one. And then it's basically like base building, but in space. Because you have a freighter that you can go land on, and you can like, so there's like a whole quest line devoted to that I've worked on a little bit. And then there's like, you can pick up these basically side missions. If you go to like any of the space stations, you can go talk to like an NPC there, and he'll have like a list of side quests that you can do, where it's basically like, go take a photo on like a strange planet that somebody requested, or go like take out 10 like ant or creatures on some planet or whatever. Like smaller stuff like that. Kind of similar to like bounties in Destiny or something. But
Yeah.
if you complete them and then you go turn them in, you get like, money or some sort of resource, or but you also gain standing with like the faction that like gave it to you. And so you could spend a lot of time doing stuff like that as well. There's just like kind of a lot to do. And so I don't know, I feel like I'm running around and I have plenty of stuff to do. And I haven't actually done like a ton of like system hopping. I've just been like basically building up my base or working on the freighter and stuff like that. And I've had like a ton of fun just doing that. And so I haven't even like really pursued the main quest lines. So
Are you playing it on Steam Deck?
I have put a little bit of time on Steam Deck. So I'm playing it mainly on PC because I would rather play with like mouse and keyboard. But I did try it out on Steam Deck and it runs great. I think it might be like one of those games that is like fully approved, or I don't remember if it was just something I tried out regardless of whether it was approved or not. But like it has controller support, obviously. So yeah, it runs fine on Steam Deck. And so it's great to be able to just like pick up where I left off and put a little more time in on Steam Deck. I will say I was afraid I was not going to like the like ship battles and stuff like that, because like we talk about it on the podcast how we're not super into like space battles or like ship battles or stuff like that. But it's actually not bad at all, because you basically can hit one button and your ship just automatically like will do all of the navigating for you to like lock onto the enemy, and you just like shoot them until you take them out. And so it's like super streamlined and super simple to do, which I love, and that makes it so much better. But yeah, like I have screenshots I can send you of just how
so are you seeing other players when you play, or is it a solo thing, or are you in a shared world?
I mean, it is a shared world, but obviously like so many people can be so far apart that you probably won't see people so much.
Yeah.
But I know you can play with other people, so you can like.
That's what I was gonna say. If I dive in, can I find you and we could play together?
I think you just like go in to like a co-op session basically, as
really?
Opposed to like, all right, let's try to navigate to each other. Like you could maybe try doing it that way, but I don't think you have to. I think it like the game is set up to allow you to do like cooperative play. And I also like went to an area, I don't even remember where it was, but some like, I feel like every time I go to a new area, like something weird and insane happens that I've like not seen before. And like there was some space station that appeared and was like, come here. And so I went in and there were just other players running around. So I feel like there are like the tower in Destiny. I feel like there are like places that you can go to that are like that. But yeah, it's just, there's so much in that game now, and it is like if you like Minecraft at all, where you're like building, like you're collecting resources and building things, like this game, there's like a whole version of that game in this, but you can like take off in a spaceship and fly into space and go to another planet. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. I think it's very cool, and I am a big fan of like sci-fi and like space travel and stuff like that, and this game is basically what they wanted Mass Effect Andromeda to be, but like more of a story version of that. And they, of course, did not fully realize that dream. So like Starfield is basically what I think I want out of that type of a thing, where it sort of combines elements of No Man's Sky, but like does more of a story driven, like character driven version of that. So that's why I'm super looking forward to Starfield. But like in the meantime, like I'm really enjoying just like exploring and gathering resources and like building up my ship. Like I found there was like a distress signal somewhere, and I like found a class ship, and I just like, this is my ship now. And like it had some stuff I had to repair, so I worked on like repairing the ship as well. And so like Also, like I went to like this really weird planet at one point that like had stuff I had never seen before in the game. And like, granted, I've not played a ton of it because I only played like at launch and just now, like in the past couple of weeks. But like, I went to a place where like everything was round. It was like a ball. I don't know if this is a thing other players have seen before, but like plants and animals and everything on the planet are basically these round balls with like lights on them. And like some of the creatures were basically like from out of War of the Worlds, where it's like a ball with like these really long, like tendril like legs standing up. I was like, I've never seen anything like this in this game.
Interesting.
Let me send you some of these images.
You're really selling this to me, actually. I feel like maybe this is the game I could use to test my PC out.
You should definitely test your PC with this. Let me see if I can send you some of these images, because it's like pretty crazy. So here, this is going to be great audio for the podcast, but here's the round place I was talking about.
Ooh, that's creepy. That thing in the distance.
Yeah, they're just like all over the place. So like all the creatures and all of the.
Do you have a cape?
Yeah, so that's another thing you can do. You can go to like a space station and customize your character now, because I'm playing it in third person as opposed to first person, which was the only option at launch. And so yeah, you can totally customize your character and have a cape, so you kind of look like a hunter in Destiny. And yeah, I don't know. Like I've been also like I swapped my ship to like third person view as well. So let me send you that. That's my ship.
Is that your ship?
Yeah, it has like sails on it.
Sails.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm really enjoying it. And also you find these like really strange planets too, like and it makes you want to like build bases on them so that you can like return to them, just because like I built a base on that planet with all the round stuff because I was like, I've never seen anything like this. I want to be able to like return to it so I can like show it at some point and be like, hey, look at this really weird place I found.
We should maybe do a video.
Yeah, we should. I should record some gameplay. And definitely, if you download it and jump in on your new PC, we should do like a
co-op.
Like, here's what co-op looks like.
I'm into that. I think that's a great idea.
I think it would be super fun. But yeah, I've been like, the reason I have not finished Stray is because I've been a little bit addicted to No Man's Sky lately. Like, I think I've played like a little more than 20 hours over the last like 2 or 3 weeks, which
oh wow,
is not as much as I would like, but like, I don't know. It's really a cool experience now that I highly recommend. And like you can go to the space stations, and every person you talk to, you can ask them to like teach you a word in their language. So like you're also, one of the things you could do, I'm pretty sure it was there from day one, you would like find these relics around different planets, and if you like went and interacted with them, you would learn a word in one of the factions' different languages, because I think there are like 3 languages in the game. And so you're also, the next time you talk to an NPC, like certain words that you've learned will just like, you'll understand them. So you're sort of building out the languages as you talk to all these different creatures, basically.
Interesting.
And yeah, so that you can work on building up your suit and gaining more like inventory space for it. You can work on building up your ship, and you can work on building up your multi-tool as well. Like I've unlocked all the inventory slots I can have on the current multi-tool I have. I'm gonna have to buy a new one at some point or find one.
Is that also your gun?
Yeah, so you have like the multi-tool that has like the ability to like shoot different resources to like gain them. But then you also have like a gun mode, basically, so you can shoot at sentinels or different creatures around the world. And then you also have like a terraforming thing where you can like basically burrow into the ground, or if you find like a copper deposit or something like that, you like sort of Minecraft style shoot it until you break it all apart and harvest the resource. And yeah, so you'll go and you'll build your base, and like you can build like a little refiner or a refinery thing that you can throw different resources in to like make different resources that you need. And yeah, I don't know. I don't normally get into like base building in games or like that Minecraft style of thing, but I've been getting really into it in No Man's Sky for some reason. I've just really enjoyed it.
It seems very cool.
So I highly recommend it. Even if you've not ever played it before, so you don't know what's different, they kind of are treating it almost like a game as service, like a Destiny, where they're like, here's the new season of new content and new missions to do and new stuff is going on in the game. So I feel like you could jump in and have like a million things to do. And again, it plays perfectly on Steam Deck. So if you are one of the few people who have been lucky enough to get a Steam Deck, pick it up on Steam and you can play it on PC. And then when you're on the go, just play it on Steam Deck.
Cool.
Yeah, it's I think it's awesome. And I definitely, now that I'm trying to sell you on it, I definitely want to play co-op with you. So
yeah, I am pretty likely to download this, I think, after we get done recording.
It was, I don't know if it still is, but when I picked it up, it was on sale for like $30.
Man, that's crazy.
So
I guess it did come out forever ago.
Check the Steam store and see if it's on sale still. And if it is, you should definitely pick it up.
Yeah.
But with that, do you have any parting wisdom?
Yes. Guys, it's hot outside. Stay inside.
I love that advice. Stay inside and play Stray, play Into the Breach, and play No Man's Sky.
Yes,
is our advice for this week.
Yes. Stay cool.
Stay cool. And check us out on next week's podcast when we talk about stuff.
The ending of Stray.
The ending of Stray. Yes, hopefully I will have finished it by then. Otherwise, give us a follow on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Starside Cafe. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.